Hello and welcome back to the Cardinal Point Perspectives. Cardinal Point Perspective is a podcast that was launched recently by Cardinal Point Advisors. We're a boutique consulting firm located in Liberia, but we actually try to talk about issues affecting the continent. Based on our years of experience, we've noticed that whatever is happening in one African country, it's also happening in several other countries. And so it's easy to bundle and tie everything together. Even when you look at development partners and the activities in these countries, you observe that one document you see here, if you go to Sierra Leone or you go to South Sudan, you see the same exact document there. They shop these documents around. They're the same exact thing. They carry the same template everywhere. In our maiden edition, we did talk about this whole thing of carbon credit and why African countries should trade economic transformation for saving the planet. And so, why the developed nations have actually transformed their economies and industrialized, Africa should now preserve the continent or preserve the earth. It's now our responsibility to preserve the earth. So we continue to live in abject poverty, forego industrialization, while they stay polluting. But we shouldn't do anything that comes close to that. So we shouldn't industrialize. Our people should continue to live in abject poverty while the West continue to use fossil fuel to continue to industrialize when we should be here and look for renewable and solar and the whole host of things. That's what we talked about in the first edition. But today, I actually wanted to talk about a post that was made by the Minister of Agriculture, a very smart guy. I worked with him before at the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. So the Minister of Agriculture is making a pitch to an investor, according to his post. I was in there. And so he's telling how there are 4 million hectares of arable land, 600,000 hectares of irrigatable land, and 43% of the rainforest in the region. And talk all of the good things for which any agricultural investor will actually want to come. But he says somewhere the investor asks him, you have all of this. Why is no one there? That is a very profound question. I hope you can escalate it inside the cabinet for them to have a conversation about it. But not just that, it's the entire country. We need to have a conversation. So we have all of this. Why is no one here? Now, few came. So there's the Golden Verilium, the Sam Darby in the agriculture space. They came. We threw them out, so to speak. We witnessed people at the behest of politicians burning green palm trees. Burning green palm trees. So a company the Sam Darby would then leave. Total left. LCCBC, Coca-Cola factory, left. It was taken over by other people. But the big names are leaving. Yes, we still have Firestone, we still have Arcelor, but the big names are leaving. And what we've noticed over the last few years is most of the new deployment of investment dollars that we've seen have actually been by people who are here and redeploying capital. So Futa redeploying capital. City Builder redeploying capital. Jetty redeploying capital. SETI redeploying capital. So that's what we've seen. Or UCR redeploying capital into American Poultry and other stuff. Largely that's what we've seen. The question is, if we're so attractive, why aren't there new investors coming into the country? It comes back to things I've been saying in previous posts about the mindset of the people. I don't think we're investor friendly. Now, not just foreign investors. I witnessed a YouTube with Lady Nee is it Fatu Kamara or Fanta Kamara, who was in the garbage cleaning business, I believe she said in maybe 2010, 2011, thereabout, and the kind of treatment she got. So the kind of antipathy that we have towards investors, not just foreign, even Liberians who want to come home and invest. The way we treat investors is just so appalling. And that's the reason why no one wants to come. People will come and act like they have interest. I mean, sometimes they have genuine interest. But when they come and they have conversations with a broad array of people, including some of the investors who are here, when they go back, they never come again. And so for 8 years, no new investor has come to this country. So that investor who asked the minister that very important question was on point. With all of this, we have all of these resources. Why aren't there investors? Why? And we need to sit down and think about this. Because it's only when investors come and deploy resources will they then be able to hire more and more people, and then we see the circular flow inside the economy. We begin to see the economy actually moving and growing. But if we just kept with the same number of investors here, and sometimes we want to gauge whether we're doing well by how well the budget is growing. No, that's a false matrix. Because you can have the people here, the same people, tax them more, government collects more money. But what happened inside the broader economy? There aren't any new activities, no new investors coming, no new jobs have been created. So the budget could be going up, and I'll be worried if I see the budget going up, but I don't see any new activities in terms of more people being hired, more companies, more activities. If we're not seeing that, but we say we see the budget growing, so we think the economy is doing well, I think no, in my thinking, I think that's a wrong matrix to look at. We need to find a way to get more activities. And I will see private sector payroll increasing, more hiring in the economy. Then we can say a lot of activities are happening. And so then when we see that correlation between those activities and the budget increasing, then we'll be a little bit pleased. But to say just because the budget increasing, it means things are happening. No, we're bringing no new investor. And even the ones that are here, sometimes the way we're treating them is actually sending a message out there. Because if I'm a new investor and I want to come to this country, I'm going to ask the folks who are there, how is it there? And if they have nothing good to say, I'm not going to come. And because sometimes we treat investors like they're thieves, they're criminals, and they're just coming to take and go. And so because of that, we discourage them. I know in my previous life, so dealing with business people to say, oh, Jimmy, you're too soft. What do you mean by too soft? Is it because I refuse to be unreasonable? That if a business person come and they explain their situation and it makes sense, I should stay no? I should make their life difficult? And so they say, oh, Jimmy, you're too soft. No, what do you mean by too soft? I just refuse to be unreasonable. It just doesn't make sense. If the guy has a business case and it makes sense, I want to encourage him to do it. That's not being soft. That's doing my job, because my job is actually to manage the economy and to make sure that more and more people benefit. And it's not just government budget that is growing and officials are traveling. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to make sure that there are activities in the economy, right? That people in Waterside, in Raleigh-Town, and in West Point can see that benefit, that they can see the employment, that people can get jobs, they can go. And most of those jobs should be in the private sector. So that means we need to bring in more companies, right? In agriculture, in mining, in fisheries, we need to bring more and more of those companies that have huge investment footprint so that they can hire more and more people. And then we can say that the economy is truly thriving. And not just use a single indicator of the budget increase and that will go hit $1 billion and so on. There's a massive disconnect here. But again, back to the question, why, if we are endowed with so much resources, and for 170 plus years, we've been exactly where we are. I'm not excusing anybody. So even including the time that I served, I'm not excusing that time. Right? I'm going to just the psychic, the mindset of the Liberian people, whether it's their government officials or the ordinary people, because we criminalize investors. And even when Liberians try to come, we frustrate them so much. So when they go back, let's say, look, I got my 401k. I wanted to go back to Liberia to see if I could do something so that eventually I can retire there. But we frustrate them, and so they go back and never come. And for some reason, for some strange reason in this country, we think that we're doing investors a favor. We don't see it as a partnership. We think we're doing them a favor. We forget that we compete for global capital. And if you don't encourage them to come here, they will go elsewhere. You see, investors and philanthropists are two different groups of people, right? We say philanthropists come over heart. Investors come over mind. Yes, they want a return on their investment. You should be able to negotiate with them so that you too can get some benefits. Don't think that they're supposed to come and just waste their investment because, what? You're Liberia? Then maybe that's why for 170 years we've been in this particular spot. We need to be encouraging to investors. We need to have more and more people come here, because when they're here and they're engaging in activities, they will employ more people. Not only will the GDP grow, but most importantly for me is for families to have income. And they have income by providing labor. And so the way they provide labor is if opportunities are available, if investors come and make those investments, then we have our people to provide labor, and for that labor they will get wages, and then they can take care of their families, and then the economy can definitely improve. But if we think that investors are criminals, and so we make their lives so difficult when they come here in more than one ways, several different ways, we make their lives so difficult, and when they go back, they just say, in Jesus' name, what is this? What kind of country is this? And I hope the Minister of Agriculture and his colleagues can find a way to provide answers. I know that they can think about it, that we have to do it differently. We have to be more inviting, more encouraging. We should encourage these people to deploy their capital here. There are 180, 190 countries in the world. There are several other places that they can go to deploy their capital, because for them, it's the return on investment. It's the return on their investment. If you want to make their life difficult, they're not going to come. They'll find somewhere else to go. Somewhere else to go. I remember the case with Dangote, and like I said, I'm not excusing the time I served, right? The case with Dangote, when Dangote wanted to do the cement here. Dangote started here several years. The system frustrated him so much so, he went to Sierra Leone and started there and stayed. Was in the pipeline here for years. We're having this conversation with Dangote. Everybody, it's making it difficult. He went to Sierra Leone and got started there. What's wrong with us? And so we could have all these natural resources, right? We can have the mountains and we can have everything. I mean, when we're small, I don't know whether it is the case. They say dwarfs are in the mountain. Maybe we can leave the mountains for the dwarfs to live. So we live in poverty and the dwarfs live in the mountain. We can do that. That is a choice that we can make. Or we can exploit those resources. We know they're depletable. We can exploit those resources, and the rent that we get from there, we can invest it in other sectors that would then be able to provide for us income when those resources are gone. That's what people do. You bring in investors. Oh, they're taking our iron, they're taking our gold. Yes, you want where you keep the gold there. You want the dwarfs to be there. What's the benefit? So we bring in investors. We're able to get rent from them to create employment for our people. The key thing is that when we get the rent from those resources, what do we do with those rents? Do we build our infrastructure? Do we invest in other sectors, in agriculture, in the service industry? What is it that we do with the rent? That's the key thing. And I'm blaming the investor. But the investor is going to come and pay whatever is due. And your regime have to be competitive. Again, if you scare them away, they go to somewhere else. You're not the only country with mountain or iron ore, for heaven's sake, or with logs, no, or with land. No, you're not the only country, not even in this region. In fact, like in Guinea, there are high quality ore than our iron ore here. So what are we doing? Because they could go to Sierra Leone. You think there's no mountain in Sierra Leone, or there's no mountain in Guinea, or there's no mountain in the Ivory Coast, or aren't there other things that they can deploy their resources in? No. Again, we compete for global capital. So why do we do this to ourselves? And so that investor, I guess you probably have heard a lot of things, and we're waiting for the Minister of Agriculture to complete his presentation and say, okay, Minister, if all of this, then why is no one there? Why? Why is no one there? It's an important question to reflect on. And if we don't have investors here to help us exploit these resources, we live in poverty while the resources are there. I'm trying to make it make sense. So the resources are there, the dwarfs are in the mountain. Meanwhile, the people living at the foot of the mountain live in abject poverty. The land is there. By the time you something, some NGO will come and say land grab. Bear in mind, the West has its own agenda. So when an investor comes and you're trying to do the oil plantation or you do this, they come and jump on you and they send all of the NGOs that are here to foster their agenda and say, people engaging in land grab, they're doing, what is it? What do we really want? And so I know in Maryland, when the former speaker, Buffer Chambers, right, we incite the people over there, the quarries, Maryland oil palm plantation, a whole host of trouble in Maryland, for heaven's sake. And then you go to the Western region with Sam Darby. If you go to Malaysia and see Sam Darby, it's a massive company. And they try to establish it. We frustrate them. We burn green palm tree until the people had to leave. People had to leave. Now, it's there. What's going to happen? The folks who have it, I mean, they're good people, but they don't have the capital to be able to make massive investment like the Sam Darby would have. I know. And so we have to step back. If we want this country to move forward, we have to develop the mindset to be able to move it forward. We have to be investor friendly. We have to be more inviting because we don't have the capital. And even our Liberians who are coming from overseas and actually want to come and invest, we have to encourage them. We should not frustrate them. I'm not saying give them special privileges, but encourage them. What can we do to encourage them? Let them come and invest their retirement money, so that they too can be able to retire here. They want to do something. It's their country. They have a bond with the country. They want to come back. But when they come, we frustrate them. All of this have to stop. It has to change. And so I just wanted to jump in. I thought it was going to be a short one, but I get passionate about these things because I've witnessed them. I've been accused of being too soft because I try to be inviting and encouraging and try to refuse to be unreasonable. And maybe a government official is not supposed to be like that. You're supposed to be tough and unreasonable. I know, but for me, I'm incapable of doing that. I'm cerebral, and so when you come to me and it makes sense, it's just difficult for me to dismiss it. It makes sense. That's just who I am. But I hope we can have more and more of these conversations, and that inside the cabinet we can raise this so that folks can have something, but just inside the general population as well. We need to find a way. How can we be more inviting to investors, not just foreign, but even Liberian investors who are coming from overseas and want to deploy capital, even those who are here? I know, how can we make it easy for them to get started, to thrive? Because when they come, the small mom and pop shop will hire 3-4 person. That's job in the economy. That's how it's done. So more and more of these small businesses hire more and more people. That's activities in the economy. And so then everyone is not dependent on the government. And so that's just my reflection on the post that the minister made. And I hope it can move beyond that Facebook and go into the cabinet room and go into broader discussions and conversations. And so that those who have official responsibility, as well as just ordinary Liberians, that we can change our mindsets. And so I'll catch you around again next time. You have a nice day.